The aforementioned considerations lead me to believe that in the current context, we are seeing an actual short circuit of human rights. The right to freedom of expression, freedom of conscience, religious freedom, and even the right to life are being restricted in the name of other so-called new rights, with the result that the very framework of human rights is losing its vitality and creating space for force and oppression. This occurs when each right becomes self-referential, and especially when it becomes disconnected from reality, nature, and truth. Distinguished ambassadors, while St. Augustine highlights the coexistence of the heavenly and earthly cities until the end of time, our era seems somewhat inclined to deny the city of God its right of citizenship. It seems that only the earthly city exists, enclosed exclusively within its borders. Seeking only imminent goods undermines that tranquility of order, which for Augustine constitutes the very essence of peace, which concerns society and nations as much as the human soul itself, and is essential for any civil coexistence. In the absence of a transcendent and objective foundation, only self-love prevails, to the point of indifference to God, who governs the earthly city. Yet, as Augustine notes, great is the folly of pride in those individuals who think that the supreme good can be found in this life, and that they can become happy by their own resources. Pride obscures both reality itself and our empathy toward others. It is no coincidence that pride is always at the root of every conflict. Consequently, as I recalled in my message for the World Day of Peace, we lose our sense of realism and surrender to a partial and distorted view of the world, disfigured by darkness and fear, thus paving the way for the mentality of confrontation, which is the precursor to every war. We see this in many contexts, starting with the ongoing war in Ukraine and the suffering inflicted on the civilian population. Faced with this tragic situation, the Holy See strongly reiterates the pressing need for an immediate ceasefire and for dialogue motivated by a sincere search for ways leading to peace. I make an urgent appeal to the international community not to waver in its commitment to pursuing just and lasting solutions that will protect the most vulnerable and restore hope to the afflicted peoples. I likewise emphasize the Holy See's full willingness to support any initiative that promotes peace and harmony. At the same time, we see this in the Holy Land, where, despite the truce announced in October, the civilian population continues to endure a serious humanitarian crisis, adding further suffering to that already experienced. The Holy See is especially attentive to any diplomatic initiative that seeks to guarantee to the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip a future of lasting peace and justice in their own land, as well as to the entire Palestinian people and the entire Israeli people. In particular, the two-state solution remains the institutional perspective for meeting the legitimate aspirations for both peoples. Yet sadly, there has been an increase in violence in the West Bank against the Palestinian civilian population, which has the right to live in peace in its own land. The escalating tensions in the Caribbean Sea and along the American Pacific coast are also a cause for serious concern. I wish to repeat my urgent appeal that peaceful political solutions to the current situation should be sought, keeping in mind the common good of the peoples and not the defense of partisan interests. This pertains in particular to Venezuela in light of recent developments. In this regard, I renew my appeal to respect the will of the Venezuelan people and to safeguard the human and civil rights of all, ensuring a future of stability and concord. To this end, inspiration may be drawn from the example of two of its children who I had the joy of canonizing last October, José Gregorio Hernández and Sister Carmen Rendiles. May their witness inspire the building of a society founded on justice, truth, freedom, and fraternity, and thus enable the nation to rise from the grave crisis that has afflicted it for so many years. Other crises are scattered across the global landscape. First, I refer to the desperate situation in Haiti, marked by many forms of violence, from human trafficking to forced exile and kidnappings. In this regard, it is my hope that with the necessary and concrete support of the international community, the country will be able to take the necessary steps as soon as possible to restore democratic order, end violence, and achieve reconciliation and peace. Nor can we forget the situation that has affected the Great Lakes region of Africa for decades, plagued by violence that has claimed many victims. I encourage the parties involved to seek a definitive, just, and lasting solution that will put an end to a conflict that has lasted far too long. Similarly, I think of the situation in Sudan, which has been transformed into a vast battlefield, as well as the continuing political instability in South Sudan, the youngest country in the family of nations, which came into being following the referendum 15 years ago. We cannot fail to mention the intensifying signs of tension in East Asia, and to express hope that all parties involved will adopt a peaceful and dialogue-based approach to the contentious issues that are a source of potential conflict. My thoughts turn in particular to the grave humanitarian and security crisis afflicting Myanmar, which was further aggravated by the devastating earthquake last March. With renewed intensity, I make an appeal that paths of peace and inclusive dialogue be courageously chosen so as to guarantee everyone fair and timely access to humanitarian aid. To be authentic, democratic processes must be accompanied by the political will to pursue the common good, to strengthen social cohesion, and to promote the integral development of every person. At the heart of many of the situations I've mentioned, we can see something that Augustine himself pointed out, namely the persistent idea that peace is only possible through the use of force and deterrence. While war is content with destruction, peace requires continuous and patient efforts of construction as well as constant vigilance. Such efforts are required of everyone, starting with the countries that possess nuclear arsenals. I think in particular of the important need to follow up on the New START Treaty, which expires in February. Indeed, there's a danger of returning to the race of producing ever more sophisticated new weapons, also by means of artificial intelligence. The latter is a tool that requires appropriate and ethical management, together with regulatory frameworks focused on the protection of freedom and human responsibility. Dear ambassadors, notwithstanding the tragic situation before our eyes, peace remains a difficult yet realistic